Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United of the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes now. New life for Sutton United. Sutton United, the National League, are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. Joining me today is Gabriel. Hi, Gabriel. How are you?
Hello. Good afternoon. How are you?
Very well, thank you very much. So one thing is definite: we're going to stop naming the podcast episodes after results because the Leyton Orient one was named "It's Always a Draw," and the Salford one is going to be 0-0. So both of those predictions were absolutely wide of the mark. So we're going to stop doing that with immediate effect. Firstly, how did you enjoy Leyton Orient? I know you did the blog for Gandemonium. Little shout out for you there. But how did you enjoy the Leyton Orient experience?
That was quite a start there. They hammered us basically in the first 30-35 minutes. They had over 10 chances. I read that I missed one in the first minute because I wasn't in the stands just yet.
Yeah.
And, they really looked like a first place team. They had combinations that they outpaced us. They had good shots from outside the area where one house had a great intervention, one hit the bar. Very good team. They look like a very good team. But we at a certain point, after we survived these first 30 minutes, we equilibrated the game. We were there. We looked, all the second half, we looked like we are able to make a comeback, to get at least a draw from it.
Well, that's the thing is, following Sutton, you kind of still expect them to score, even really late on. You still expect, you're like, well, hang on a minute, there's going to be at least another chance. As we saw yesterday as well. But onto the Salford match. What were your thoughts when you saw the lineup? Because I got 10 out of 11 because I didn't know about Jack being injured. What were your thoughts ahead of the match?
I was expecting to see the new keeper, which we saw yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I was expecting to see Kendall in at that game, and I was looking forward to see what he's got.
Yeah,
was a bit disappointed on that, must say.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. We'll probably see more of him in the next couple of weeks.
After Leyton, I wouldn't be so sure. He didn't impress me at all. I don't know. Of course, the coach knows them from practice, and he will make his choices. I would see rather Josh Neville play as a second striker than Udevine, who played well yesterday, to be in the first 11 rather than him at the moment. He didn't impress me at all. He had two, three good balls close to the area of Orient and didn't do anything with them, basically. He seemed fearful.
Okay, fair enough. I think it's going to be a like for like, but we'll come on to that and why in a minute. But the first half, I thought Andy's prediction of being 0-0 always against Salford was looking spot on because I think both teams were huffing and puffing and not really much excitement going on.
There were chances. It was a much better game than the one against Hartlepool in the first half. I was thinking the same at 60 minutes in the game. Can't be another 0-0.
Yeah.
We scored and it looked all right, but then.
Yeah. Well, I thought when we scored, we were going to get away with it. I thought we were getting lucky. I wasn't 100% sure we did enough for a win. I know a lot of people were talking about we had a lot of good chances, but we didn't actually have we didn't trouble their keeper that much. And even the cross for the goal was quite lucky because Enzio put a ball in which nothing came of it, but it came back to him again. And he then managed to put another ball in, which was a great ball for Josh to get onto the end of. And then, as bad as the referee was throughout the whole game, and he was very fussy for both teams, but he was very fussy. But the big decision, it seems that everyone was criticising and moaning, but he actually looks like he got that one absolutely spot on because no one saw it except the assistant referee. But Matt has come out with quite clearly, Donovan said, yeah, I did kick him, which is just really odd.
He didn't protest either when he was shown the red card.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely something going on with the 42 because he wasn't a small bloke, but he was on the floor all the time. And I think he was winding everyone up a little bit.
Well, everybody does in football a little bit of cheating. We don't have to be Italians at it, but we still have to do. And you remember the moment at Swindon when first Bugil is hit by one of their defenders, and then he hits back. The referee didn't saw the first part, comes and gives only a yellow card, which we're lucky for that, to Bugil. Bugil understood his lesson from here, and when he was pushed by the keeper, now he fell down and exaggerated, hoping to get a red card from the keeper.
Yeah, no.
Come.
Yeah.
We should learn from this. We should be a little bit smarter rather than hit back and get red cards.
Yeah, I mean, I did have to listen to Matt's interview again because I was laughing because it was definitely like a parent talking to a child, and it was like, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. And I was like, oh, that's going to hurt even more than him being shouted at and screamed at. But yeah, that's why I was wondering whether Kendall was going to come in as a like-for-like replacement for Wilson. But also we got Tope is in training again. I think he sees Killian more as an Omar replacement than necessarily playing off Omar. But who knows? Killian and Omar could be the dream team.
Yeah, I think we had a game last year in spring when Bugil and Bennett played together.
They did. I think that was more through necessity than choices. I don't think we had many other options at that point. But yeah, Matt does like his big un and little un to run off. But we'll see. As you say, Matt's the one that sees it all going on in training, and striker is probably the only position on the pitch where we've got such a wide selection of people that can come in. So it's not the end of the world. And as a couple of people have said, maybe Wilson, a little spell on the sidelines, might actually do him good for when he does get back in.
Yeah, he had quite a bad run. He has zero goals, had a few good passes, good assists, but he has 0 goals in 10 games and with like 5 chances alone with the keeper.
Yeah. So he's had a few assists. There's been a few one-on-ones in the last few matches where a year ago, 2 years ago, would have absolutely finished them. I think there's a confidence thing where he's trying to decide what to do, and a couple of them where he used to just absolutely blast it, he would have scored, but now he's thinking about it a little bit much and maybe is making mistakes. Maybe needs to go back to the instinctive, just sticking his big toe out and hoping it bobbles in somehow. But overall, it's another one of those games where it's just the ball wasn't dropping for us. There were so many occasions where it was just millimeters out from where we wanted it to be. And there was another one of those unlucky games, which we've got to stop this run at some point of unlucky games.
Yeah, I was looking, we're missing something. I don't know to explain what, but we're missing something compared to same period in last year. Last year, I think the first game after Oldham, which was another frustrating moment. But after that, the next game that we were turned around after going up 1-0 was at Orient, that 4-1. So it was a good run of about 10 games in which we were never turned when we go up. Now they have been overturned like 4 or 5 times. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, their second goal, when I watched it back, the first goal was obviously a good goal. We kept their strikers really quiet, but the sending off, whilst it doesn't necessarily change the game in the fact that it's a striker, it does lift the other team a little bit, and it gives them just that little bit of momentum or a little bit of confidence boost. But the second goal, again, was Louis cleared it, but it deflected. Oh no, it deflected off Louis straight into their striker's path. And again, that's what I mean about things just being slightly off. If it had gone a couple of inches the other way, it would have been no good.
We make small mistakes. I want to come to the first goal because I watched it. I discovered the slow motion function on YouTube, and I like to analyze to see them in slow motion. So there's a moment before the goal, their winger is at the midfield with Eastmond. He runs. He does this very smart play here. He runs towards Kesey in near the edge of the field. And at that moment, you can see Kesey and Eastmond exchanging glances and probably even words. He's yours now, you know. Yeah. And Kesey nods that he's got him, but he doesn't got him for a split second. He runs. The winger realizes this exchange of guards, and he runs behind Kesey, and he gains 2 meters, gets the ball, and he has 2 meters of advantage and enters freely in the area, which allows him to look, to pass, to make a good cross. So this is where the started, and this is a mistake, a small mistake, but we're making a bit too many this year.
Yeah, we're getting not found out, but we're getting punished for these mistakes. I mean, it's often said that these things even themselves out over a season, which means that we're about to go on a very good run and have a lot of good luck going in our direction for the next few weeks.
You had your best player lost in the first half of the first game.
Yeah.
After losing Wembley like we lost it, after being the first under the line for the playoffs. That's a lot of bad luck. I don't know, maybe we're paying for the 2 good seasons before.
Maybe.
I still expect that turn of luck to come, but it's not there yet.
No, but as we said, there was lots of people that left at 2-1, which again, I'm never really sure about. But we, again, as I said earlier, we had that chance. So we carved out that chance. Killian, last minute or 90 seconds, the keeper made a great save.
He was absolutely fantastic. If you look at the moment again on the highlights, he was alone between 7 players of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and he still manages to get away with the ball and to shoot. He was absolutely fantastic at that one.
Yeah, and the keeper made that great save, and it's like, it's never going to go away. But the chances come, so that's why I'm like, I don't understand why we're leaving early.
I wasn't leaving. I left my place at 2-1 and all around. I was at the Tardis terrace and move all around just in front of you.
Were you?
I've seen that moment from there.
Yeah.
There's a superstition that I have from a long time ago as a supporter. If things don't go right, change your place in the...
Well, this is what I was going to say. Is I didn't get there as early as normal this time because I didn't go into the fan zone. I got inside at the right time, but as I was walking through the Collingwood Park, I thought I could just nip into these gates. I don't need to walk around to gate number 1. And just as I got to the gates, it's just like, no, I need to walk all the way around to gate number 1. So now at least I can say, right, I don't need to do that anymore. I can stop with that nonsense. I'll try something else. But yeah, I mean, well, I think we're 13th now, so we just slipped into the bottom half of the table, just about at sort of the quarter, well, not even quarter-way stage yet. So we've got, things are going well. They're not going as well as last season or the hopes that we had for this season. But it's not the end of the world. There's a lot of teams that would quite happily swap for our position. Some teams are getting really, really desperate. And one of them we will come on to in a second. But before we do, just a quick shout out to the women's team, who today were at Saltdean, and they did win away. So Darcy, there's no video to this, so we do have to take Ahmed's word for it, but there's no reason for Ahmed to to tell us a story. But Darcy scored a great goal to put us 1-0 up. They then got back to 1-1 at half time. They then took the lead for 2-1. Then Liv scored a great goal to make it 2-2. And then Lily, who is younger than my eldest, and it's a bit of a moment for me because she's the first player I can think of that's younger than one of my kids scoring a goal. It's like, oh God, I don't like that. Apparently she scored another great goal. So 3 great goals, 3 points on the road. Season, thank God, is sort of up and running for the ladies team. They're in the FA Cup this week. Look out for where it is, because I've got a bit of mixed message on that, because the FA's website said it's in Nutfield and our website says it's in Dorking. So I think we need to kind of just clarify exactly where it is. But hopefully next week, FA Cup on Sunday, wherever it is, if we could get some people down, I'm sure they'll really, really appreciate it, especially as the season's now up and running. So congratulations, ladies, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank you for taking the time to listen to Sutton United Talk Time on podcast, the Sutton Podcast. If you are new to the show, hello, and you are very welcome. Hope you enjoy what we do. It's a very simple format. We get a few people on to talk about the game that's just gone, and then we preview the next game coming up. We are available on most podcast platforms where you can listen, rate and review. If you find that we're not on your preferred platform, please let me know and I'll sort that for you. If anyone would like to support the podcast, you can find out how with more information on the website, which is www.suttonpodcast.com, and there's a tab where you can find out how to be a guest as well. Please find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok with the username @SuttonPodcast. Every like, follow and share is really appreciated. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you. On to one of those struggling teams. Earlier on, and it's not going to be seen on the live chat, but earlier on I spoke to Matt from Gills in the Blood podcast. And here he is. Joining me now is Matt from Gills in the Blood TV. Matt is going to be slightly different from the last time I had a Matt on the show, who was Leighton Orient, and he was very smug. This Matt, you're not going to be so smug, are you, Matt? How are you?
Not even a little bit, unfortunately. No. You'd have just, obviously it's only going out as an audio, but if this was a video, you'd have just seen the face that I pulled. No, nothing to be smug about, unfortunately. No. It's been a very poor start to the season, and that's being generous.
Yeah, well, there are a couple of positives I've dug up for you. I'll try for you. But before we get into that, what I'd like to do is just sort of introduce yourself a little bit, tell us a bit about yourself, a bit about the podcast, essentially, who are you?
Love that. Been running the YouTube channel now for 5.5 years. Started February 2017. It's evolved, it's grown, it's changed, but essentially we do 3 regular shows. We do a match preview show, which we record generally on a Wednesday night that goes out on a Thursday. We do a match day live, which is a vlog of the game, self-explanatory. And then we do a Monday review show, which I record with another Gills YouTuber, German Gills, who gets to watch all the games sort of on iFollow because he lives in Germany. So it just gives a couple of different perspectives. Obviously, us seeing it in the stadium is different to what you see on a screen.
Yeah.
And then we've got a couple of other series that we do from time to time. Gills in the Blood Chats too, which is, essentially interviewing club legends, ex-players. And we do a My Gills, which is with fans. We've got a series of questions, sort of how long you've been supporting the generic ones, and then like fantasy six-a-side team. So 5.5 years. It's people are still willing to listen and watch, which is I take as a good sign. And all the while people want to do that, I'll keep doing it as much as I can. But it's not been great fun for the best part of probably 14 months now, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I had you, I don't know why, but I had you pegged as I thought you were going to do all right this season, to be honest.
So did I.
It might have been looking at your tweets over the summer, making me think, oh, they'll be all right. But so I usually ask at this point, is there any highs and lows of the season?
We scored against Rochdale and Grimsby. There you go. There's the highs.
Well, you're also into the third round of the League Cup.
Yeah, but even that's gone wrong for me because I didn't realise that due to a Winter World Cup, they've moved the third round to November, and I'm in Edinburgh, so I can't go to Brentford.
Oh, right.
So yeah, so.
Oh God, I really tried. I dug around for a positive.
That's fine. It's fine.
Really
it's not just me. I was the only one that wanted someone like, I don't know, Hartlepool home or something in the third round. I don't know if they were still in the competition, to be honest. But yeah, so I was the only one that was disappointed. We got a Premier League team away, but fingers crossed we can go out there and put on a show.
Yeah, hopefully, and it's the kind of thing that can kind of spark a season for you. Hopefully,
well, hopefully we've done something before then, because that's 2 months away still.
But what are we? What are our new expectations for the season? What are we hoping for? Are we going? Are we coming out of this slump? What do you see as going to be happening for the rest of the year?
I, like you, start of the season was pretty optimistic. I didn't think we'd, I'm not saying we was going to come down and romp the league or anything like that. I understand that League Two is a little bit different to League One, and you have to probably stand up to the physicality and that side of the game more. And but I certainly didn't have us fifth bottom after 10 games. I certainly didn't have us averaging a goal every 5 games and being on track for 9.5 over the entire league campaign. But such is life. That's the hand we've been dealt at the moment as a supporter base. But we've just got to get better and quickly. I don't want to, look too far ahead at the moment. I think we can only take it one game at a time. And, if we go and get something against Sutton next week, who started okay, if we beat them, it's, everyone is a bit happy and a bit more chipper going to work on a Monday. But trouble is we don't look like scoring. We're not scoring and we don't look like scoring. That's the trouble. I think aside from the Grimsby game and the Rochdale game that I've seen, where we created plenty, if it had been 3 or 4-0 against Rochdale, no one would have batted an eyelid, and we probably should have beaten Grimsby. We had 2 harshly ruled out. We look very predictable, very pedestrian. I don't know. Is it too early to be saying that staying up is essentially the aim at the moment? Because, there's talk of us doing a Southend.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of thing, and the chairman's gone AWOL and left it in to someone else who's he's come in, and we beat Rochdale and we beat Wimbledon in the cup, and he was probably thinking after 4 days, this is a piece of piss, this job. I think we scored once since then.
Yeah.
And that honeymoon period is very much over, and there's not been many games where we've been been bullied and outplayed. Mansfield last weekend we were very poor, and Tranmere just done a job on us, but we've been in games. But when you're not good enough in both boxes, then ultimately you're going to struggle, and we're not conceding loads, but like I said, when you've scored 2 in 10, it's going to cause you a problem.
Yeah, because you were you had high hopes of getting our lone squatting player who's with us for 3 years, Isaac. Start of the season, you were hoping to get him in from Millwall.
Yeah, there was obviously there was talk going around, obviously because of the Neil Harris Millwall link. But I was one that was sort of saying, is he going to drop to League Two? Surely Sutton, would be in a prime position to have him back if he was going to go League Two. But my thinking was generally that he'd probably go League One if he was going to be sent out on loan, because he'd scored 15 goals or so in the National League for you, and then he got 9 or 10 last season at League Two level. So the natural progression was to step up another division. But anyone that could score a goal, I'd take at the moment. Someone's mum, I don't mind anyone.
we were a bit confused on that, because as I say, it's an odd one, because we've had him on loan for like 3 seasons, which is just really bizarre for a lone player. And then we knew we weren't going to get him back. And then it was all like, there was a lot of talk that he was going to join Gillingham. We were like, well, surely he's not going to come back to another League Two. He's got to go to League One.
That was what made it odd for me as the link. If he was going to go League Two, surely Sutton would have been, prime candidates, having had him for 2 or 3 seasons previously.
Yeah. I was trying to claim that he's actually ours if we've had him for 3 years. Surely it's like, you live in a house for 3 years, it's surely yours.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's our player. But who's our danger man? Who should we be looking out for? Is it anyone, or do we just have to roll up?
I'd hope that you don't just have to roll up. But Mansfield essentially did that last week in our last home game, and we just gave them the game in the first period. And Neil Harris I think Neil Harris, that's probably the first time I've questioned Harris. He got the system wrong. He played a back 3. We had a winger playing as a wing back, and it just didn't work, and we invited pressure. So hopefully, we got a modicum of a reaction away to Hartlepool, the team with the worst defensive record in the league. But we were hanging on, and that's where we are. Hanging on at a side that's not won at home since February is a sad indictment of where we are as a football club and a football team. But you'd hope with some home support, and a full week on the training ground that will be better. We'll have Elkan Baggott back from international duty, but he's a defender. We need goal scorers. Dangerman's tough, unfortunately, when we look so blunt. I'd have said, if you'd asked me in pre-season, I said Jordan Green. He looked a really good bit of business. Had been up the pyramid and then sort of dropped out of the game professionally because he'd fell out of love with it. But he's barely touched the ball in the last 2 substitute appearances. Mika Mandron's our top scorer, so I suppose I have to say him, but he's got 2. But he's not been at it. I almost weirdly think that he's probably suited to League One, and that sounds stupid with a player that's a goal scorer that's not scoring goals. But I think in League One, we had him previously, and he scored 24 goals in 2 seasons with Crew Alexander. You get a little bit more time; it's a little bit more refined. You know, there's still teams in there and defenders that want to kick you up in the air. I get that, and I'm not saying that League Two is a poor league, but I just think he's not dealing with that physical side that you get with the majority of League Two centre backs. I think he's a bit more used to being able to bring it into his feet. And I think, dare I say it, we need almost like an old school League Two battering ram type target man. But obviously, if we want to do that now, we're shopping in the free agent market. And like Neil Harris keeps saying, they're free agents for a reason.
If they're free agent in coming into October, there's a reason for that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, well, I do hope the season gets a bit better for you. But on to the important question. And this is the one I'm sure you're going to roll your eyes at. Here it comes. A very important question for our Sutton fans this week.
Mm-hmm. Probably the cricketers, I'd say.
The cricketers?
Which is about a 5-minute walk from the ground.
Excellent.
Big bar area, big garden. So, yeah, you'd be able to get a drink in there, something to eat. There's plenty around the grounds, though. If you're coming off the train station, there's plenty in Gillingham High Street as well. So you'll have options for liquid refreshment, I'm sure of it. And there's, all the usual fast food establishments as well for a dirty burger and some cold chips.
Lovely, because they do try to get up there. Well, a lot of them try and get up there for opening time, so they make a nice day of it if there's lots and lots of places for them to drink.
Whereas one or two times tend to get there as late as possible and leave as possible at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. It's been wonderful. Try and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I know it's going to be a struggle, but
well, luckily I've already called in my Monday review. I did it yesterday to try and ease the pain a little bit. So this was just looking forward to the next performance. Sorry.
There might be a Columbo or something on telly that you can watch that'll cheer you up.
I think my go-to is Gold, and it'll just be Only Fools and Horses in the background as I drift off to somewhere nice where we score goals.
Excellent. Cheers, Matt. Thanks for your time. Take care.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, mate. Ta-da.
Cheers. Bye.
So that was a thoroughly dejected Matt. So back to the interview with Gabriel.
What are your thoughts and hopes for next week? Because Gillingham have been struggling. I think they've scored, he said, 2 goals in 10 games. What are you hoping for next week at Gillingham?
Definitely, as we just lost our home record, we should also do something about our away record and change it as well. So I was hoping that the away record will fall first.
Me too.
Yeah, it should fall. Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, Gillingham, they've broken the stats because someone produced some stats about the team's XGs, and I don't really understand all that, but all the teams are down here in Gillingham are like the worst ever, and there's a huge gap between everyone and them. So they didn't have the worst start, but they just seem to have just absolutely dive bombed, and he was just saying you just can't even see where a goal is coming from. So are you going to go out on a limb and say what you think might happen, or is it still we're going to hope for what's going to happen next week?
No, just hope. I only seen Gillingham in the last minutes of the relegation game when I think they needed a goal change to avoid relegation, and instead there was the other team that scored against them.
Yeah,
in the last minutes.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping we can pile on the punishment and start our own little run from Saturday. As you say, the home record's gone, so now we can just start. Let's go with like a new unbeaten run, home and away,
Yeah, we're in the middle of the table, and we seem that we need very little to climb up. It's only a few points that we so easily dropped at Doncaster yesterday. We could easily have had 5-6 more points. But on the other hand, we are also with limited now. We have too little on the bench. Okay, there are a couple of important players that are injured, but still it feels like on the bench we are thinner than last year. So I think if we accumulate a couple of more injuries, we can also go the other way, not necessarily in the relegation battle, but in the bottom half.
Yeah, the season could kind of come to an end pretty soon. Okay, well, I did forget, but I've got it now. Just want to ask you for your nominations for yesterday for Player of the Day. So I'm just going to do my lovely little sound clip if it lets me do it.
Now watch me do my dance. I'm the Player of the Day.
So this should have been done minutes ago. Who do you think for the Player of the Day yesterday?
As I did before the podcast, it's a hard one. For example, I wouldn't have put Neville for the goal. I thought that it was one of the most discreet games that he had lately.
Yeah.
Didn't create much.
Yeah.
I still feel that we have the best wingers, the best couple of wingers with him and Randall in the whole league. They're our strength. They're our main strength. They are our best weapon. But I don't know.
So
is it mine or yours?
So I thought John Barden actually had a great game, especially as he's playing at left back, and he's done something in the second half yesterday that we didn't necessarily see so much from John Barden, is where he was running forward, going on the overlap and breaking into the box. So I don't know, we've seen that too much from John over the years.
Second half, yes. In the first half, he was passed at two of their chances, but in the second half, he played great with Boldevine.
Yeah. I'm wondering if he goes on that overlap in the second half because Matt's not shouting in his ear to stay back. So maybe he felt Matt couldn't see him. He's just running forward, so he wasn't getting in trouble. See, we've got Josh for the goal, John Barden. Who else do you feel?
I don't know. I like Bugil's effort. Every game he puts there all that he's got.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you would think Kwasi seems to be more attracted to the goal than him. But it's hard to say replace Bugil with Kwasi because Kwasi shows he's 19 years still. He has moments when he disappeared from the game.
Yeah, no, Omar definitely is one of the names I had written down as well because we struggled to get a full 90 from him, but you could definitely tell when he'd left the pitch. And I can't actually remember what the score was at the time, but his presence was his presence was definitely missing at that point. But again, he gives everything for the 70, 80 minutes he's on. So and just one more. I've got a name, but who do you feel?
I wouldn't put John because I blame him, even if it's two bad deflections. I still blame him for the goals.
Yeah,
he had a fantastic intervention at 0-0 at the beginning of the first half. He had a fantastic moment when he blocked the shot.
He did have a good block in the second half as well, but then he admitted on the interview afterwards the only reason he needed to do the block was because he'd made a mistake.
Yeah, that's
in the
true.
Building up to it, so he got himself out of trouble. The other name I was going to put was again he was everywhere yesterday, and I know you like him because you put him in the chat various other weeks. Is Easty? He wasn't his absolute best, but he was there.
He's always there, just as Bugil. He always plays at 80%, 90%. He doesn't go lower.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so I'll put them out on the nominations and we'll see what other people think. But that's about it, really. We're looking forward to a midweek off. I do have an episode coming out with the ex-U's views and a player who used to play for us called Damien Scannell, and that will be released on Wednesday to everyone. It is on Patreon if you are on one of the membership tiers, if you wanted to have it early, but it will be released on Wednesday. Other than that, we will be back again next Sunday. Time to be decided, because as I said, the ladies team are either at Dorking or Nutfield, and I've got to work out how to get there and back. But I will work that out at some point. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you to Matt. You're more than welcome. And thank you to Matt for earlier on as well. Hopefully something happens, not on Saturday, any other day after we play them, but hopefully something happens to cheer him up a bit. But thanks all for listening, and we will see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.